The aroma of sizzling bacon usually made stomachs rumble with pleasant anticipation, but for Sarah, it was a cruel, mocking tease. Her daughter, Lily, shivered beside her, a tiny hand tucked into Sarah's coat pocket, her own stomach rumbling with a hollow ache. When the diner owner, a man named Mr. Henderson, sneered at Sarah's timid question about leftover scraps, he thought he was just shooing away another nuisance, another invisible ghost haunting the edges of his successful establishment. He had no idea the silent, imposing man in the corner booth, a massive figure in a worn leather vest, had heard every single word. Sarah had known leaner times, but nothing quite like this winter. Every street corner felt colder, every closed door heavier. Still, even with the gnawing hunger, she carried a quiet strength. Just last week, while digging through a public bin for cardboard to line their sleeping spot, she'd found a thick leather wallet, overflowing with cash and cards. Her fingers had trembled, the temptation a cold serpent in her gut. But the face on the driver's license, a kindly older woman, had looked too sad to lose such a thing. Sarah had walked 3 blocks to the address on the ID, waited for 15 minutes, and handed it back. No questions asked, no reward expected. The woman, caught up in her own hurried day, had barely looked at her, just mumbled a quick thanks, her eyes already scanning the street for a taxi. Sarah had simply nodded and walked away, her empty pockets feeling lighter than ever, but her heart a fraction warmer. "Excuse me, sir." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper, thin as the cold air outside. She clutched Lily's hand tighter. They stood just inside the swinging kitchen door of Henderson's Diner, a place that usually bustled with hearty breakfast eaters. The smell of fried potatoes and coffee was almost unbearable. Mr. Henderson, a round man with a perpetually grease-stained apron and a booming laugh, was wiping down the counter. He didn't look up, too busy chatting with a couple of regulars. "Sir? Mr. Henderson?" Sarah tried again, her throat feeling tight and scratchy. He finally turned, his friendly smile instantly dissolving when he saw Sarah and Lily, their worn clothes and the desperate plea in Sarah's eyes. "Can I help you?" he asked, but his tone was already sharp, his brow furrowed. He glanced at the half-eaten plates on a nearby table, then back at Sarah with disdain. "We don't do handouts here, lady. This isn't a charity kitchen." Sarah's face flushed hot, but she pushed through the shame. Lily's stomach had just let out a loud, pathetic gurgle. "No, sir, I understand. I saw some food on those plates. You know, leftovers. My daughter, she's really hungry. Could she maybe have the scraps? Just the untouched bits, please." She pointed a trembling finger towards a table where a family had just left, leaving behind half a stack of pancakes and a few sausages. The words felt like ash in her mouth. Mr. Henderson's face hardened. He let out a harsh laugh that echoed in the suddenly quiet diner. "Scraps? Lady, this is a respectable establishment. We throw out whatever isn't eaten. We don't serve it to people like you. This isn't a dumpster, you hear me? Get out of here before I call the police for loitering." He even took a step forward, puffing out his chest. Sarah flinched, pulling Lily behind her. "Please, sir, we just need something warm. She hasn't eaten properly in 2 days. Just a little bit of those potatoes, perhaps? They look perfectly fine." Her voice cracked, a plea so raw it should have pierced through stone. But Mr. Henderson just sneered. "Perfectly fine for the bin, where they belong. You think I'm going to let you contaminate my diner, asking for garbage? What kind of image would that be? Now move it, I mean it, I'm busy." He waved a dismissive hand, turning his back to her, as if she were a bothersome fly. The few customers who had been enjoying their late breakfast now turned their heads, their forks hovering midair. A woman with perfectly coiffed hair at the next table tutted loudly, shaking her head. "Honestly, some people," she muttered to her husband, loud enough for Sarah to hear. "They just bring down the whole place." A young man at the counter snickered into his coffee cup. Sarah's chest burned. Tears blurred her vision, but she blinked them back, refusing to let Lily see her break. Her hands trembled, her grip on Lily's tiny fingers almost painful. She couldn't breathe, the rich, warm air of the diner suddenly suffocating her. Her cheeks flushed a deep, painful crimson. Every eye felt like a burning spotlight, exposing her deepest shame. Lily, sensing the hostility, burrowed her face into Sarah's leg, her small body shaking. Sarah felt utterly, horribly alone, exposed and humiliated. Just then, a heavy scraping sound cut through the tense silence. It was the man from the corner booth. He was huge, his leather vest adorned with various patches, his arms thick with muscle. He wore a bandana that barely contained his long gray hair, and a grizzled beard framed a stern face. He had been quietly eating a plate of eggs and bacon, seemingly oblivious to the drama. Now he slowly, deliberately pushed back his chair, the legs screeching on the tiled floor. Every head in the diner turned to him, including Mr. Henderson's. The biker was a formidable presence, easily 6.5 feet tall, his shadow falling long across the room. He didn't say a word, just started walking, slowly, towards the counter, past Sarah and Lily, his heavy boots thudding softly on the floor. Mr. Henderson, trying to regain his composure, straightened his apron. "Everything all right, sir?" he asked, a forced pleasantness in his voice, clearly hoping the biker was just heading to the restroom. The biker, Rex, didn't answer. He reached the counter, pulled out a phone, a rugged, heavy-duty model, and held it to his ear. His gaze swept over Mr. Henderson, a look of cool, unsettling assessment. "It's Rex," he said, his voice a low rumble that somehow filled the whole diner. "I'm at Henderson's diner, on Elm Street. Yeah, I need you to pull up the full dossier on this location and on the owner, a Mr. Henderson. Every detail. Financials, health inspections, lease agreements, employee records, customer complaints. Everything. And I need it now. Send it to my tablet." He paused, listening. "And one more thing. Get me a copy of that old deed for this property, the original one, from, let's say, 60 years ago." He snapped the phone shut, his eyes still fixed on Mr. Henderson, who now looked thoroughly bewildered, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple. What are you talking about?" Henderson stammered, his earlier arrogance replaced by a tremor of fear.
"What dossier? What deed?" Rex ignored him. He turned his attention to Sarah. His hard gaze softened infinitesimally. "Ma'am," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "What's your name?" Sarah, still reeling from the public humiliation and now utterly confused by this turn of events, could only manage a shaky, Sarah Miller, and this is Lily." She gestured weakly to her daughter, who peeped out from behind her mother's leg, wide-eyed. Rex nodded slowly. He looked back at Mr. Henderson, his expression now completely devoid of warmth. "Mr. Henderson," he began, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "You just publicly shamed a mother and her child for asking for food. You accused them of contaminating your establishment. You threatened them with the police." Henderson scoffed, trying to find his footing. "They were begging. I have a business to run. People don't want that kind of element around their breakfast." He gestured vaguely at Sarah and Lily, then back at Rex. "What's it to you, tough guy? You don't own this place. You don't make the rules." His voice was rising again, a desperate attempt to regain control. "Don't I?" Rex's eyebrow arched, a chilling silence falling over the diner. Just then, a sharp ping came from Rex's large tablet. He tapped the screen a few times, then held it up, displaying a complex, official-looking document. "Mr. Henderson, do you recognize this?" Henderson peered at it, his eyes squinting. "What is that? Some fake document?" "This," Rex stated calmly, "is the original deed for this land. The land this diner sits on. Purchased by my grandfather, Thomas Tommy Riley, in 1963. He built a small diner here, a place where no one was ever turned away hungry. A place where everyone was treated with respect." He paused, letting the words hang in the air. Henderson's face began to drain of color. His jaw worked, but no sound came out. "And this," Rex continued, scrolling to another document, "is your current lease agreement, which, as you can see, includes a clause stipulating that any tenant who engages in documented instances of refusing service to the needy or fails to uphold the community standards and health regulations established by the original owner, Thomas Riley, can have their lease terminated immediately and without penalty." He then scrolled to a new section. "And these, Mr. Henderson, are the records. Records of health code violations, employee complaints about unpaid wages, and yes, multiple customer reports about your blatant disregard for people in need, including instances where you've thrown out perfectly good food rather than offer it to hungry individuals outside." Henderson's bravado completely collapsed. His face had gone from red to an ashen gray. His hands, which had been gripping the counter, began to tremble violently. No, that's not, you can't, he stammered, his eyes darting around the room, desperate for an escape. I'm a good businessman. I pay my taxes. This is ridiculous. Who are you? I am Rex Riley, the biker said, his voice now a booming thunder that shook the very foundations of the diner. And my family owns this building, this land, and every single piece of equipment you've been using. And as of this very moment, I am initiating the termination of your lease. You are done here, Mr. Henderson. The diner erupted in gasps.
The woman with the coiffed hair now looked horrified, her hand flying to her mouth. The young man who had snickered dropped his coffee cup, spilling it across the counter. Henderson's face was a mask of pure terror. Sweat beaded on his forehead, rolling down into his eyes. His mouth opened and closed, no words coming out. He looked like a fish out of water, floundering, suffocating. Just then, two more men, dressed in neat but imposing suits, walked into the diner, carrying a briefcase and a tablet. They moved with purpose, flanking Rex. "Mr. Riley," one said, "we've begun processing the termination notice. The city inspector has been notified and will be here for an initial assessment shortly regarding the health code violations." Rex took the paper, a cold fury burning in his eyes as he looked at Henderson. "The legal process has begun, Mr. Henderson. You will be formally served notice to vacate the premises, and our team will be inventorying all equipment." He turned to the suited men. "Start preparing this place for temporary management. We'll reopen tomorrow under the original family name, Tommy's Place, and it will be a place for everyone." Henderson made a choked sound, a desperate whimper. "You can't do this. I've been here 20 years. "You forgot the values my grandfather built this place on," Rex retorted, his voice unwavering. "He believed in feeding people, not shaming them. You treated a mother and child like dirt, Mr. Henderson. You treated them like trash. And for that, you lose everything." One of the suited men, gently but firmly, took Henderson by the arm, guiding him towards the back office. Henderson stumbled, his legs seeming to give out from under him. He tried to protest, but his voice was a broken rasp. The customers, who had been silent witnesses, now began to murmur, some shaking their heads in disgust, others openly expressing their relief. One by one, they turned their backs on Henderson, who, with one last desperate look around his crumbling empire, was led away. His phone, which had been buzzing frantically in his apron pocket, finally stopped ringing. Every door in his life seemed to be slamming shut, audibly, irrevocably. Rex turned back to Sarah, his expression softening once more. "Ma'am," he said, his voice gentle. "Sarah, this establishment is about to undergo new management. As of right now, Tommy's Place is open, and your daughter, Lily, can eat anything her heart desires, anything at all, and you too, on the house." He then looked at the staff, who were now looking at him with a mix of awe and relief. "And for the rest of you, get to work, start cooking, we have hungry guests." Tears, hot and unstoppable, finally streamed down Sarah's face. Not tears of shame, but of pure, overwhelming relief. Her knees buckled slightly, but Rex gently placed a hand on her arm, steadying her. Lily, her face still smudged with dirt, looked up at her mother, then at Rex, and a small, hopeful smile, the first in days, blossomed on her face. Rex led Sarah and Lily to a clean booth by the window. He didn't sit with them, but stood nearby watching as Sarah, through her tears, ordered 2 plates of pancakes, eggs, and crispy bacon. Lily giggled as a new waitress, her face beaming, brought out a huge glass of orange juice. The warmth of the food, the kindness of the staff, and the overwhelming sense of safety washed over Sarah. One by one, they turned their backs on Henderson, who, with one last desperate look around his crumbling empire, was led away. His phone, which had been buzzing frantically in his apron pocket, finally stopped ringing. Every door in his life seemed to be slamming shut, audibly, irrevocably. Rex turned back to Sarah, his expression softening once more. "Ma'am," he said, his voice gentle. "Sarah, this establishment is about to undergo new management. As of right now, Tommy's Place is open, and your daughter Lily can eat anything her heart desires, anything at all, and you too, on the house." He then looked at the staff, who were now looking at him with a mix of awe and relief. "And for the rest of you, get to work, start cooking, we have hungry guests." Tears, hot and unstoppable, finally streamed down Sarah's face.
Not tears of shame, but of pure, overwhelming relief. Her knees buckled slightly, but Rex gently placed a hand on her arm, steadying her. Lily, her face still smudged with dirt, looked up at her mother, then at Rex, and a small, hopeful smile, the first in days, blossomed on her face. Rex led Sarah and Lily to a clean booth by the window. He didn't sit with them, but stood nearby, watching as Sarah, through her tears, ordered 2 plates of pancakes, eggs, and crispy bacon. Lily giggled as a new waitress, her face beaming, brought out a huge glass of orange juice. The warmth of the food, the kindness of the staff, and the overwhelming sense of safety washed over Sarah.
She watched Lily devour her pancakes, syrup dripping from her chin, a full, happy sound coming from her little throat. Sarah picked up her own fork, her hands still trembling slightly, but this time it was from the sheer joy of it all. She looked out the window at the cold, gray street, then back at her daughter, who was finally gloriously eating. A new beginning, warm and sweet, had just unfolded right before her eyes. Stories like this remind us that kindness, when truly given, always finds its way back, often in the most unexpected ways. If this story touched your heart, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales. What do you think Mr. Henderson truly learned that day? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next story.